Hi everyone, and welcome to my 40-hour mark update on my Aquatica Nautica pencil piece. And I'm going to kind of give you some updates on what's happened since the 20-hour mark, a lot of things that I've learned on technical aspects, and some of the little stories that I'll explain throughout. Okay, so to start off with, you may have noticed that I haven't covered anything on this side, and that's because I have fully realized I need to work from left to right, because I was moving right and I was kind of going back and forth, and I realized a lot of the darkness that I had in some of these areas were lost because of, rubbing, and it's natural for that to happen a little bit. So instead, I'm going to be working from left to right here on out, and I do place a piece of paper under my hand, but I realize the smudging is going to be infinitely less if I just do it, methodically. And that's why I'm only kind of working and updating a lot of the left side here. So as you can see, I moved down and up. And the other thing is, if I push against the canvas, see how it wobbles a little bit on the easel? So I've been literally taking it off and working on the floor, and I never usually work on the floor, so it's been kind of a learning experience on how to lay down without being on the actual piece. So I usually have like a couple pillows, and then I'll draw with a piece of paper under my hand on this side. So I'm still not sure how I'm gonna work in the middle section, but that's a challenge for future Timothy to figure out, and I'll get there when I get there. But for now, it's been pretty easy just to kind of lay next to it and then just work up and down. And the other thing that I realized is I'm not gonna push a lot of the darker B pencils in these areas until I get pretty much everything done, like maybe a first pass, or maybe like once I do the first strip, I'll do a dark pass. Because like I said, a lot of those darker values were lost from smudging, and I don't want to have to redo this 5 times pushing the values. So I'd rather get it to a place that's pretty comfortable and then do like one final pass with like a 2B pencil and really amplify those darker values. So then the next thing I realized is the architecture. So, oh. Casper, what are you doing? That's something that we have to constantly make sure the new baby cat is doing all right. Meanwhile, Astrid's just watching the younger brother. Anyways, though, I realized a lot of the architecture I had was very Eurocentric, and there's a lot of points. So up here where I haven't redone a lot of it, you can see all the spikes. But I was in an area down here, it was this building, I believe, where it had a spike and it just wasn't feeling right. And I tried to work around it. I erased it, tried a few different times. I must have done at least 2 or 3 hours erasing it and trying to readjust the shape of it. But in the end, I realized it's because the pointiness wasn't working with the feel of the piece. And I think this underwater city would have more rounded shapes, more sphere-like buildings. So that's the kind of consistent theme I want to go with. And I do feel it's more reminiscent of being like an underwater city. So a lot of these points I'm probably going to edit as well to have more roundness to them. I'll still probably have a couple, but you can even see up here I even included like more spherical tips rather than them being so sharp. So that has been a very good learning lesson for me. And also depth, because when I was doing this area, it's kind of flat, and there is like some implication that it goes deeper, but I want more areas like under this bridge where it feels like you could go under the bridge and then it goes back like a mile or two, and that's where you see faintly like the bridge and some of the buildings back there. And I'm definitely going to play more with that, as you can see up here, where it definitely feels like there's depth to it. It's not just, things right up front to the camera. So in terms of the story elements, speaking of down here, this whole area I had to adjust and change. And I realized the band that I had here, there was like a cafe, and it was very small though. It didn't quite work and didn't make sense. So I'm pushing the band from here, and I'll probably push them way out here. Still have a little bit of that restaurant type feel, cafe, but instead I'm gonna use this side more as like a hotel strip going down. Now, I guess I can talk a little bit about the small stories here, because here, like I mentioned, there was that cafe and there was, the band, but I decided here instead, I'm gonna have small moments as well as big moments. So even though there's some bigger ones like Tristan stealing the conch and Triton trying to come through the gate to find him, there might be smaller ones where there's just this mermaid, you know, giving a passing glance to these two mermen. You know, it's one of those quick little flirty glances, but I think it's a moment that is fun to capture as well as the bigger, kind of deeper story ones. And not only do I want to have smaller moments like this, but even up here, I also want to have moments that aren't so kind and nice and inviting. So in this one, I kind of like the idea of him robbing this mermaid. And I like the idea of including, you know, darker elements within this city mural, as well as like the happy light ones. So as cute as it is with like, you know, this couple visiting a library or a son and father looking through the glass to see what they're, you know, possibly gonna window shop or even buy at the bookstore, you know, I think I gotta equal and balance it out with these kind of darker elements throughout. And I did want to have more like lighter fun elements up here, and then very architecture heavy middle section. And then as we get lower, I want this section here to be very magical and full of like mystery. But near the bottom, I really want it to be more dark and laced with a lot of macabre themes. And that's where you're gonna see more of like the eels, those underwater deep, or what are those? The fish that lurk at like the bottom, the surface of the ocean. And I think those elements will be sprawled throughout and like a sunken ship. So I'm still kind of planning out where I want everything, but one of the big things I realized is I really wanted a coral reef on the bottom. But after doing a lot of research, I realized coral reefs grow more toward the surface. So instead of putting them way down here, you can kind of see it around this area here. I'm pushing a lot of those coral reef elements, and I'm gonna have a really big coral reef, like similar to the Great Barrier or the Great Coral Reef, right in the center, and have that be kind of a landmark for the middle of the piece up there. So that was something I've definitely learned the more I do research on oceans. And actually, if you guys have any good documentaries or TV series that delve specifically into underwater stuff, I'd love for you to recommend it, because you guys had some great recommendations on my last video. One of you guys pointed out an underwater instrument that would work, so I'm definitely going to include that. And then you guys also gave me some ideas for why bridges could actually make sense underwater, and maybe some of them are specifically for fish, and it just gave me a lot of cool ideas. And if you guys have any more suggestions like that, yeah, please let me know, because that was really helpful, and it kind of helps me then understand this world that is being created, and it's kind of like being created together with you guys. Let's see. I took down notes because there was so much that I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, I also, because this wasn't really here, so instead I included, well, there was the cafe and everything, but as I did the harp, initially it was going to be like an architectural element, but I decided to make it a harpist that was playing, and she's like this animal tamer. So the idea that started to unfold to me as I was drawing her was you could leave your mount or your pet, your ride, so to speak, with her, and then she would put them in this trance, like a magical trance, where they would just kind of sit there and be, you know, lulled by the music of the harp. So when you went to go explore into the city or do whatever you needed to in town, you could leave your pet or your mount with her, and then they'll still be there when you get back. And then for this mermaid, I kind of wanted her to be like this darker mermaid that's never really experienced being around other people before. So she must have traveled through one of the portals, and she's just like amazed by everything. So I still want to have fun with her design. That's why I kind of left her blank. I want to play with a few shape elements. And then, like I said, this is the passing moment. And then I will still include the band and stuff. Oh yeah. And then as I'm moving down, I like the idea of this being the hotel, like I mentioned earlier, and you can see like one of the little children, I think it was gonna be a mer boy, kind of putting his hand on the glass, like looking outside. But then this kind of larger than life merman is intentional, because I want the mermaids to be of different varying sizes and shapes. So he's gonna be, I believe, like a giant squid type mermaid. And all the ones that are reminiscent of like orcas or just whales or giant sharks in general, I want them to have a larger physique. And it still needs to read and register with the rest of the world. So I'm gonna be careful with, you know, how I handle that, but I do wanna include, yeah, varying sizes of mermaids. And then as you can see, I'm still like kind of playing with different ideas. I like, and kind of like what I mentioned in the last video, I like kind of sketching out what I want first and then finalizing what feels right as I'm moving down. So yeah, I think those are most of the new things. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I added since the last one. And I think that's all I have. Yeah, that looks pretty good for now. Like I said, I learned that I'm gonna move left to right. Oh, that was the last thing I want to talk about. So for the border, you can tell that it's left intentionally blank right now. Originally, I was gonna have it be very gaudy and, you know, intricate with filigree, and mind you, it still might be that. But I wanted to include like little nautical elements throughout, and I decided I'm gonna leave the border till the very end because I'm gonna want to include or at least my idea right now is I'm gonna look at the stories that were created throughout this whole piece, and then I want to include like an element from each into the actual border. So things like Tristan stealing the conch, well, that conch will be one of the elements in the border, you know, like highlighted by something. Or like her harp will be one of the elements, you know, and I can keep just pulling through and figure out, okay, what element is important or what symbol would be important to include on the side. So I'm still undecided on exactly what that's gonna look like, but as of now, that's the idea. So thanks again for watching this. I hope this is fun for you to watch. I know this has been a really fun and very challenging piece for me to work on. I won't lie, this has been frustrating, but I guess that's a good thing because you can, you know, feel the actual like growing pain on doing a piece like this, and it's pushing me kind of to my limit. So I guess that's a good thing as an artist. So I'm gonna, you know, keep finding that motivation and inspiration. But I will say your guys' comments on the last one really helped me with some ideas and push me forward. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know, and that would be great. And I'm gonna keep updating probably every 20 hours, maybe every 30 from here on out. We'll see how it looks in 20 hours, and then yeah, I'll post another video. Okay, thank you guys so much. And for now, here is where it is at officially. Okay, take care everyone.